Welcome to Unscripted, a podcast with no script by design. We're not following a plan, and that's exactly the point. This show is about whatever's on the minds of your hosts, Larry Lannan and Duncan Giles. We'll dig into what's happening in the world, and just as importantly, what isn't making headlines this week. So with that, let's get started. The conversation could go anywhere because we go wherever the microphones take us. Here's Larry Lannan and Duncan Giles. I'm Lannan, he's Giles. This is Lannan and Giles Unscripted for November 28th, a Friday. By the way, it is Black Friday, and on this Black Friday, we welcome back Duncan Giles.
Thanks, Larry. As always, it's good to be here.
So I tried to count up the number of places I plan to go shop today, and I came up with the number 0.
I was going to say probably the same number as I've got.
I stay away from every shopping area possible on this day.
Yeah, my favorite Black Friday story is way back when I had first started at the service. I was probably a couple of years in. So we're talking, 28 years or so ago. My daughter was pretty little. And one of the things my wife wanted us to get for her was a life-size Barbie. So my assignment,
story. Yeah, go ahead, please.
My assignment before I went into work was to get a life-size Barbie. And so I went in, I got it, and had it sitting in my car at work. And so, I'm doing my thing, taking calls. And my cubicle mate, who had the same sense of humor that I did, said, well, why is she in the car? Why don't you bring her in? Which I thought was an outstanding idea. So brought the life-size Barbie in, and people visited her. All the people that were working that day were all visiting her.
The only question I have is, did this have a security clearance?
No, actually, she didn't. But I escorted her the entire time she was there.
Okay, so that was the way you got around this.
Yeah, either that or when I went to the bathroom, my cubicle mate took care of her, and no ill became of her. Nobody tried to kidnap her. She didn't try to get any access to any of our systems. So all's well that ends well. But it was so funny. But yeah, I do Black Friday from the comfort of my chair now when we do anything.
I have to tell you this story because there was an entire movie made about someone who brought to the Thanksgiving dinner his girlfriend a life-size doll. And how the family, he just acted like this is a normal kind of thing. The family's like, what? So that was obviously a comedy, I hope.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm really glad you had a chance to visit with family this Thanksgiving. I know we both did.
Yeah. I hats off to my wife, Kim, who did a beautiful spread. My son-in-law doesn't eat turkey, so she made turkey. She made ham. There was just a multitude of food. Was able to have up my son-in-law, daughter, and what they call now our grand dog, who is the size of a small pony. Didn't realize she had gotten that big. And when she came in, she about bowled me over. And I'm a big guy. I can pretty well stand my ground and don't mind dogs jumping around on me. But this dog just about, made me go back a foot or so.
Well, we have grand dogs as well, not as big as yours, but I just want to thank my daughter and son-in-law here in town for hosting us, and my son-in-law's parents, and my 93-year-old father-in-law joined us. So
very nice.
It was a lot of fun to be with my 1-year-old granddaughter as well. So we all had a really good time for Thanksgiving. I want to move on to something else because, Duncan, something that didn't really impact me because I was long gone before any of this happened. There was something that came on the horizon called the Department of Government Efficiency, better known as DOGE, also known as a contradiction in terms.
Yeah, I was going to say, if there was ever an ironic title for an organization, that was it.
Well, guess what? It has quietly been disbanded 8 months before it was scheduled to do so. So it had a charter that has now been taken away, which is a pretty good indication that this has been a big bust. This was Elon Musk's idea. And he initially said, I'm going to cut 1 trillion, that's right, with a TR, $1 trillion out of government spending. So what does their website claim that they have saved? The website claims they've saved 214 billion, but even that is under question because nobody has actually received any independent confirmation or verification of that. So we're not sure they saved any money at all. In fact, here is a fact that you have to consider in all this, that federal spending has been increasing. That if fiscal year 2024 to 25, there's been an increase of $301 billion. That's a 4% increase in federal government spending during this time that we had the Department of so-called Government Efficiency. So it doesn't look like it was very efficient after all.
No, I can tell you for a freaking fact, it was not. It was not efficient, and as someone who was directly impacted by this, and actually it worked out well in my favor, that I was able to leave early and still get paid, which still makes no sense to me. But it's like, if they wanted to do that, that's fine. But the government is still in a huge sense of disarray from this. Um, the people that need to be there are not. Their basic goal was to gut the government bureaucracy. Well, congratulations, because you did that with a chainsaw. As he famously showed in a conference, instead of a scalpel. Just to give you an example, for me, I retired officially basically 2 months ago. Have not gotten paid out my annual leave that I have. Haven't heard the first thing from a retirement specialist, much less heard anything from the Office of Personnel Management. Have no idea when I will, because there's no one left to contact, because basically the folks that have experience and were close to retirement were saying, I'm not going to be dealing with this stuff. I'm ready to get out of here. So in my opinion, and I think this is shared by an awful lot of people, DOGE created a lot more havoc and left the government in much worse condition if they saved anything at all.
Well, let me give
the federal laws that they broke, and literally broke, they broke the law, is astounding.
Well, let me give you some numbers and facts that I think will buttress what you just said. The number of layoffs throughout the federal government was 300,000. That's a lot. 300,000 layoffs. And they were all attributed to this DOGE program. As of August of this year, the Partnership for Public Service said just under 200,000 federal workers have just left their jobs for a variety of reasons. Some took the package you were offered, others just left. That's 500,000 people to put that together that are not any longer working for the federal government. And what did that do? Well, let me give you an idea what that did. Let's look at the IRS for a moment, because the IRS has about 20,000 fewer employees than they had before this all started. The Yale University Budget Lab says the cuts to IRS will lead to a 2.4 trillion, again, a TR, $2.4 trillion loss in revenue for the federal government over 10 years.
Yep.
2.4 trillion. And that's mostly going to be because there's going to be increased tax cheating by people in the upper incomes strata. So, they've robbed IRS of enforcement so people in the upper income can play games with the tax law while people earning wages are, still going to have to pay the taxes that they owe. Look at the Veterans Administration. Veterans are stuck with long waits for medical care. Social Security claims are going unanswered at the moment. Food and drug inspections may not happen on time or at all. Think about that. That impacts everybody, the safety and health of everyone. Now, they had to reverse a number of decisions. And Duncan, I think the most obvious one that had to get reversed pretty quickly, they started firing people at the National Nuclear Safety
Yeah.
Administration. These are the people that oversee the U.S. nuclear arsenal. They thought, oh, I guess we probably shouldn't have laid those people off. So, your thoughts on DOGE?
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible the havoc, like I said, the havoc that they've caused. And when they're sitting there going, okay, we're going to release you, we're going to lay you off. No, we need you to come back. No, actually, we were kidding. We still want to release you. Nobody has any idea of what's going on. It's being controlled by very few people at a level of OPM. And again, this goes back to Project 2025, where they wanted to literally, and I quote, terrorize federal employees. Well, they've done a good job of that because people who can get out have gotten out. People who couldn't afford to get out have still said, I need to get out because the stress of this is just ridiculous. I'd rather find something that doesn't pay as well, but it gives me more peace of mind and I can sleep. It's been a huge fiasco. What it's going to do is not make federal service palatable to anyone. I see hiring events going on now, and people are like, oh, look, they're hiring at the IRS. Yeah, but instead of seasonal or permanent positions, they're hiring temp positions. So it's not going to be the same as it was. You're going to have a lot less job security. And all across the board at just about every government agency, it's just been heinous, and no one can get any answers on how the future is going to unfold to service the American people. And that's the job of the government. How
Yeah,
do we service the people?
just to clarify what you're saying for people who don't understand, there's a big difference between seasonal, permanent, and temp. IRS used to hire a lot of people to work the tax season only, and they were considered seasonal. I actually came into the federal government in 1983 as a temp in the Defense Department, worked there about 6 weeks before I went to the agency where I ended up staying for 28 years. But there are differences when you're a temp. You come and go as the government pleases, and you know that going in. I mean, it's
Yeah,
seasonal, but when there are no permanent jobs being offered, it's like, okay, first of all, how permanent is it with the way things are going? And secondly, one of the great benefits of working for the federal government is that you normally didn't get unfairly let go. Well, people getting unfairly let go, that takes away one of the major perks or reasons people go into government. So, I mean, there are a lot of reasons people go in to be part of something bigger than yourself, to be part of something important. But also, I mean, the idea that you can that there are rights and that people can unfairly fire. People do get fired. Duncan and I both know that.
absolutely.
I was a
Absolutely.
manager. He was a union official, and we saw people get fired all the time. This myth that people never get fired from the government is just that, a myth.
And it's just one of those things where, to paraphrase Thomas Jefferson, right now people are scared of the government. They're what's going on with ICE in a lot of different locations where, if we want to get rid of people who are here illegally and who are criminals, totally get that, but it's gone well beyond that. As Thomas Jefferson once said, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have the exact quote in front of me, when when the government fears the people, that's freedom. When the people fear the government, that's tyranny. And that's what I'm afraid that we're teetering towards now.
Yeah, and before I move on, I just want to say I think what happened to those National Guard troops in Washington D.C. is just horrible. One as we record this, one of them has lost their life, the other is still critical, hanging on to life, and I just feel horrible about that. And the only thing I will say about it is that I would hope more of our elected officials would tone it down and not try to make political hay out of a very tragic family situation.
I could not agree more. When yeah, the tone that's coming out of DC, the rhetoric that's coming out of DC, the vitriol that's coming out of there is just, this was a tragedy, an absolute isolated tragedy. And there should be consequences for the person or people that are responsible. I'm assuming he acted alone, but whatever. But the vitriol that comes from this, or the political hay that they want to make, is absolutely disgusting.
Well, let's move on to something else. We've talked about AI, artificial intelligence, a lot, and something came up I just want to update people on. And just to give some background for those who haven't followed this, corporate America is pouring tremendous amounts of money into development of AI. Everybody wants to be the AI company. All the big tech companies are pouring this money in. And a lot of outside experts are saying, how can you justify this? How can you even make this money back? And they're very concerned. A lot of people who are seasoned Wall Street watchers, seasoned corporate experts are saying they're very concerned that we could have some serious issues in our corporate world if this doesn't pan out the way people think it will. Data centers are now coming on left and right and facing opposition in many local communities. They take a lot of electricity and water out of a local community. But something else happened, and I think it needs to be considered. There is a bill in Congress, and it's called the AI-related Job Impacts Clarity Act. What a name. Now, what does that mean? Well, what's happened is there's a bipartisan concern because there are two senators who are working on this. One is a Republican from Missouri, Josh Hawley. There's a Democrat from Virginia, Mark Warner. Because there's a lot of worry in Congress that AI is going to start abolishing jobs. There are some people who think we could lose
Absolutely.
20% of the workforce jobs available over the next few years. So the question is, what should or can the government do about this if there's some drive toward massive unemployment? Now, nobody knows for sure that the experts are totally split on this. I've seen some experts say, oh, there'll be new jobs just like in the past. Others say, oh, this is different. No, that's not going to happen this time. We're in for a real big problem here where we're going to have massive unemployment. Curious what you think about all this.
Yeah, it's one of those things that AI is a great tool, but right now nobody really knows how to harness it fully. And there is a great concern about losing jobs. I remember a briefing I was in just a couple of years ago where, AI was starting to be, coming on more and more. And they were talking about, well, we're going to have AI do certain things. And I said, okay, how is this going to impact current employees? How is this going to impact hiring in the future? And I was assured um, by somebody who is still with the service that, oh no, it won't impact any hiring, it won't replace any people. And now you've got chat bots out there trying to answer tax law questions or, do some sort of assistance, to help replace or assist telephone assisters, things of that nature. So, yeah, it's a very big concern that it should be a tool to help people. But if you start having it replace jobs, where are these people going to go? What kind of jobs are they going to have? What kind of training is going to be needed? Are they going to be able to do the training? Is the training going to be available for them where they're located? There's a whole bunch of issues that I'm glad that Congress is at least looking at, and hopefully in a bipartisan manner, they can come up with some answers, some guidelines, and some guardrails.
Well, with that in mind, let's move on to a little happier place. Let's talk about the news items that did not make the mainstream media.
Wait, you mean we haven't had happy items already?
Well, how do you define happy, Duncan? Let's get down to brass tacks here.
Yeah, yeah. The Thanksgiving stuff was good, and then it all went downhill from there, happiness wise.
Well, here's a story. I love stories like this. I've seen one, but when you see a specific one, it's always fun. This happened in Philadelphia. There were a pair of roommates, I guess former now, Jessica Yang and Nicole DiNardo. They went to court over the ownership of their cat. The cat's name, Gary. Yang sued for $20,000 after DiNardo changed the cat's last name at the vet's office and added herself to the microchip information. This is from a news source called Shepherd Express. They specialize in stories like this. And how did the court rule? In favor of Yang. Yang gets Gary the cat.
As a former guest on this podcast, Tracy DeMartini, you would tell us, Philly folks are very tough and want to hold on to what they have. That being said, God bless them for caring about a pet that much that it makes that much difference to them. That's just kind of scary.
$20,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
But apparently it was worth it. I have known people who have their dogs and cats and have to pay huge medical bills for these animals because they're so attached to them. And I've seen numbers in the thousands of dollars. I don't know if it's 20.
Yeah. An example there was my mom found this cat, basically by her house, decided to adopt this cat. And we had grown up with dogs, never had cats. And she had this cat. Cat had a broken leg. Cost her $1,000 to fix the cat's leg for a cat that she had never had before, didn't know, was basically a stray. And she kept him until the cat passed. But it's like people will spend a lot of money on stuff like that.
Well, and if you feel that animals are worth, taking care of, and it's really a personal decision, because that is a lot to spend. But even if you're not attached to the animal, but you feel animals deserve that kind of treatment, you'll do something. Your mom should be commended for that. That was a nice thing for her to do. Let's move on to Orlando, Florida. Hillary Martin of Orange County, Florida, filed a lawsuit. She wanted $50,000 against SeaWorld. She was on a roller coaster and was struck in the face by a duck. It knocked her unconscious. So we don't know how that lawsuit went yet. Shepherd Express had that story, and we'll see what, if anything, comes of that court case.
How's the duck?
I don't think the duck did well.
Yeah, it's like, but okay, she's suing because she got hit on a ride by a duck. And how is the ride operator supposed to control that? It's sort of like people who want refunds on hotel stays when they're going to be doing outdoor activities because it rains. Okay.
So are they supposed to control the ducks or what?
Exactly. They're supposed to control the ducks, supposed to control the weather, supposed to control. There are things that are going to be outside of their control that they cannot help.
Well, here's something that I think you'll find interesting. There's a realtor, and a lot of realtors do this. They'll buy a property, a single family home. They'll fix it up and sell. It's called flipping.
Yep.
You hold it for a while, see if the value goes up, especially if it's in a nice area of a particular metropolitan area. Well, he did that. This Tennessee realtor did this and then discovered that somebody had literally stolen the home's concrete driveway, apparently hauling it away with all the construction equipment that he was using in a bizarre theft that police are still investigating. This came from a TV show called Coast to Coast AM in Tennessee. So it's nice to flip a house, but the concrete driveway is no more.
Yeah, how do you steal a concrete driveway? But houses under construction or being flipped or things of that nature. I still remember a situation that happened, living in previous life with my ex-wife. We had built our own home, and a lot of homes in that addition were still being built. And we're looking out our bedroom window one night and seeing somebody. We were having a rash of air conditioners being stolen, and we're seeing right out our window the neighbor on the next street. The house was unoccupied. Somebody was tinkering with the AC unit. So I said, call 911. I'm going over there and see if I can stop this. So I go over there, come up from behind, and I said, what are you fellas doing? And the guy says, is that a gun in your hand? And I said, yep. And he goes, have you called 911? And I said, yep. And he goes, hi, I'm your new neighbor. He was an HVAC guy who was installing his own unit, but he was actually very appreciative that we cared enough to go out and check this out. So that was my introduction to the neighbor, who was a great guy and remained friends for years.
So it's nice that he didn't get mad at you. That he actually
No, and he wasn't mad at all. He was very happy because I hadn't raised the gun or anything, and just had it by my side. And I was just looking out for the neighborhood because it was like there was a rash. Basically, they'd set an AC unit down, people would take it. And I hear that things like copper, items of that nature are very popular in new home constructions for people to steal.
got a last thing I want to talk about, kind of not related to anything else we've said. Do you know who Aaron Andrews is?
Yes.
Aaron Andrews, for those who don't know, is probably one of the best sideline reporters in all of sports. He's very well known to work for Fox Sports doing NFL games, and she's done other sports as well. She's just very good at what she does,
Yep.
just excellent at that work. But she was on a podcast recently. They have one of those Fox Sports people has a podcast. You know, when you're on a podcast like ours, you talk about anything and everything. You talk more in detail about things than you would ordinarily do. And she was talking about the fact that she misses almost every holiday, that she's working on
Yep.
Thanksgiving Day, for example. A lot of Christmas days she's working. Other holidays she's probably working. And how much she misses being around family and friends or just enjoying a day off on a holiday. And there was a huge uproar over this. Like, what is the matter with you? Don't you appreciate what you have? You have all this money, you have this network fame and all this. And it just brought memories back to me, Duncan, because I remember working for Peanuts in the radio broadcasting business, and I worked every holiday. I worked on Christmas. I worked on New Year's. I worked on the 4th of July, Thanksgiving. I worked them all. And I just sort of knew going in that that was, part of the deal. And a lot of these professors that teach these kids that want to get into media, well, one of the first things they'll tell you, in fact, they'll say even more. They'll say, be prepared to not have much of a relationship. Be prepared to get divorced if you have to, because life's going to be hard, and having a personal relationship when you're doing sports, when you're doing news, when you're doing these really hard jobs that take so much out of you, you're going to have a price to pay in your personal life. And I think she was unfairly criticized for saying that. In fact, she told a story about how she dated this one guy who couldn't understand at first that she worked every weekend and was all upset because she could never go to any of his travel softball games. And that relationship ended. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
What do you think? You
That's
have any thoughts on
yeah.
that?
That's one of the things that I actually commented to Kim yesterday because being Thanksgiving in our house, football's on all day, especially now with the 3 straight games. And one of the things I really love about this is that they show the crews. They have the photos and the videos of all the crews and able to wave and all that, because there are an awful lot of people who are away from their families, like Aaron is, every weekend on holidays and things of that nature to bring us entertainment or for whatever reason. And so I just was like very appreciative of that. And I love them getting a little bit of fame, so to speak, so they can be shown for, being there. And for somebody like Miss Andrews, whose, job is going to be very intensive for those football weekends or the other sports that she's covering, because her contract doesn't end with just football. It's all year round, as you said, that's the life, and that's very tough.
Okay, we're about out of time. Any last thought before we go?
Yeah, the last thing I have, I just thought of. I want to say to all the professional nurses out there, social workers, and all that. The administration has, redone some things and said these jobs aren't professional. For educational things, you are so appreciated, and you are professionals. Again, like you said, working weekends, holidays, and all that. These are people that do that type of work. Nurses, social workers, not to mention the first responders and people like that. So I abhor that decision. I think it's absolutely insane, and just want them to know, any that are listening or viewing, that you are appreciated, that you are professionals, and we are very thankful that you are doing the job that you're doing.
Another profession that generally works through holidays and weekends quite often. Most of them work like 3-day, 12-hour shifts. I mean, this is tough work being a nurse. When I was hospitalized with E. coli, and I was very sick, I was lucky to live through that. It was the nurses that kept me going. I mean, the doctor certainly,
Yeah.
checked me out and made the orders, but it was the nurses that keep you alive. So this idea they're not professionals is almost unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
So Duncan Giles, thank you very much. If all goes well, we'll be back next week with another edition of Lannan and Giles Unscripted. We have one ask for you as the audience. Like and subscribe to this podcast. We appreciate it. Duncan and Larry will be back soon with another episode. In the meantime, this is Unscripted.